I got a 6-figure book deal from HarperCollins back when I only had 5,000 followers. And if you are someone who wants to write a book or wants to see your book in bookstores, listen up, because I'm going to break down in this video exactly how to do it even when you don't have a big audience. Now here's the thing, I didn't just get any book deal from some random independent publisher that you never heard of. I got one from HarperCollins. This is the publisher, one of the top 5 in the world, arguably one of the top 1 or 2 in the world as well, that literally published people like Charlotte Bronte and Mark Twain. And note that I didn't just get $5,000 or $20,000 for a book deal, I got a 6-figure book deal, $125,000 from HarperCollins, back when I only had 5,000 followers and was only a few years into my business. So if you've ever heard the myth that you cannot get a book deal unless you're Oprah or a celebrity, or you have to have millions of people on your Instagram or your email list, watch this video because I'm going to break it down step by step what you need to do in order to get an incredible book deal well before you're Oprah famous. All right, so let's get started. You know, I just want to share a little background as well of how this happened for me. I decided to launch my business, and at the same time, I knew I really wanted to write a book. So as I was developing my coaching arm, my programs, my philosophies, my testimonials with incredible results that my clients were getting, I was writing a book at the same time. I didn't wait for some, zenith of my career in order to finally sit down and write a book. I was actually building it in real time as I was building my business. And I remember one time sitting down with a woman who told me that I would never get a book deal unless I had 100,000 people on my email list. Now, at this point, I was already building my email list, but I probably had like 3,000, 2,000 people on my email list. I was nowhere close to the 1,000 that she told me I would need to have in order to get a book deal. But the thing is I didn't take this woman's advice and I didn't get deflated. I believed that she was wrong. I believed that a book deal was something I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get traditionally published. I knew I wanted to actually have my book in bookstores. I knew I wanted the gravitas and the esteem that comes with an actual book deal from a top publisher to get my book out there into the world. So I didn't pay attention to her advice and I moved forward anyways. So I went through the whole process. I wrote the book proposal. I scouted out agents. I did the work to really get publisher ready. And in 2020, I got a 6-figure book deal from HarperCollins. I remember the day my agent called me to tell me the news, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. I remember crying tears of joy, dancing around, and just feeling so blessed that this was really going to propel my work into the world. And trust me, that book has really made my career. It's called Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier and More Confident You. I highly recommend you check it out. And it is something that has allowed me to share my philosophy and my trainings and teachings and ability to lose the desire to drink, essentially, in the subconscious mind with such a vast number of people all around the world. Fun fact, I also got a few book deals from other countries to publish it in different territories. So I actually got a few book deals, and it was just one of the coolest things that ever happened in my life. So I hope I can show you that you don't need to be Oprah famous, that you don't have to, be someone who's already 30 years into your business in order to get a book deal. This is what you actually do need to do. First of all, publishers are looking for trending topics. So you really want to, speak to something that's really coming up in the culture as the new thing, the new it. And the right time and the right place really does matter here. So if you start to notice new trends that are going on, that can be something to really explore in your zone of genius to start writing books about. Back when I wrote my book, Sober Curiosity was a brand new concept. Most people thought about going sober through like traditional recovery and AA, and here was this new millennial fresh face of really sharing how just curiosity and how not drinking can really become something that propels you to your dreams and doesn't have to be rock bottom. That really took over and was just a defining message of that time. And now sober curiosity is huge, so you can see how that thing that started as this little trend really grew and blossomed over the years. So if you don't find yourself in a trending topic, however, you might want to do a really new spin on a classic one. So there's a million books about self-love, there's a million books about healing your inner child. I mean, you name it. There's books about astrology, all these things. But if one of these classic topics is your zone of genius, you want to make sure that your book has a very healthy, very creative new spin on a classic work. So you're either going with a new trend and you're going to be the leading thought leader on it, or you want to really put a spin on a classic topic. Do not write a book that sounds like anyone else could have written it, especially when you're in the self-help area and industry. There are so many books that sound exactly the same these days, and you really want to be sure to stand out. The next thing you want to do to get an incredible book deal is to have a very engaged community. Now notice I didn't say huge community. I said engaged. So for me, what happened is that my publishers actually were able to come into a challenge, a free challenge I was hosting. It was called Think Like a Not Drinker. And it was blowing up. People were on fire and commenting and sharing. And it was really cool for the publishers to see that there was a lot of energy behind this movement. And it doesn't have to be a big one, right? It's just a small but mighty community of people who really love your message. Because it just goes to show that there's going to be a lot of different audiences out there who just haven't heard the message yet, but are going to just get as activated and on fire in order to move forward. At the same time, you do want to be growing your platform. So while yes, the whole point of the video is to show you don't need to have 1 million followers to get a book deal, you want to make sure you're doing due diligence, because you're probably not going to get a book deal if you don't even have an Instagram and you've never sent an email to an email subscriber. So you do want to make sure your baselines are covered. Be sure to produce content, to be growing your email list, and once you're in the healthy thousands or even tens of thousands, you know that you're definitely secure, and there's some people who get book deals without any kind of outside platform. They're professors, they're researchers, they're CEOs, and that is their platform. But for most of us, yes, we do need to grow a platform. We do need to grow an audience. Publishers want to see that you can cultivate a group of people who are going to want to read your book when it comes out. Obviously, it's going to spread way beyond your own community, especially if you do the book marketing right, but you do want to show, publishers that you are ready and willing to do anything it takes to grow an engaged, vibrant community that loves this body of knowledge or this body of work. And my last tip for you is to start positioning yourself as a thought leader. Now, a lot of people, when you think of thought leader, you might think of someone like Tony Robbins or Brene Brown, and people often assume that thought leadership is something that you attain at the zenith of your career, at the end of your career. And that a lot of times you think, you either have too much imposter syndrome or it's just too early to really start calling yourself a thought leader. Now, obviously, great to have some humility, but you can also start positioning yourself as a thought leader today. It's not a milestone you reach, it's actually a decision you make of how you position yourself. And what do thought leaders do? Well, obviously, thought leaders write books, right? So that's good. You're going in the right direction with this one. Thought leaders are also featured everywhere. They're featured on podcasts. They speak on stages. They own their own body of work and their own methodology. They do cool stuff like hosting in-person experiences. And so in this way, for publishers, you definitely want to position yourself as a thought leader. Get on as many podcasts as you possibly can. Start speaking on stages. And if you're like, well, Karolina, no one's really inviting to speak on their stage, well, pitch yourself, right? Pitch yourself, or even better, create your own stage. You can host your own event and get incredible footage of you sharing to your clients and your students and the audience about your teachings and about your philosophies and your frameworks. That is where you can get started even today, even before you get paid to speak on the bigger stages. And this is the kind of positioning that really makes a difference. You can get featured in articles, you can get featured in different people's groups and stuff. And what it shows publishers is they're not fooled. They don't think that you're, have like 1 million followers when you don't. That's not the point. The point is that the publisher recognizes this new talent that is going to skyrocket, and they want to get their hands on it before someone else does. And so if you can really position yourself as the next big thing, but you're just newer into this game, then publishers are going to go after that. And the reason why people get book deals even before they're Oprah is because publishers are always looking for a new talent, right? And obviously this is from my experience, but I've also helped many of my clients go through this process as well. And so I'm speaking from anecdotes and experiences, but also I hope just motivation to show you it is possible. It just takes consistency and work to do that. Now, I'm not going to go over all the logistics it takes to get a book deal because honestly, we don't have enough time in this video to go through the whole process of what you need to do to get a book deal. But you don't just ring up a publisher one day, right? There's a specific process of getting a literary agent and writing a book proposal and all these things. This is something I actually help my thought leaders in what's called a thought leader mastermind. So if you want more information about about that, just be sure to go into the show notes below and click that link. We're either opening enrollment soon or there's a wait list you can join. But this is something that I'm near and dear to my heart. I love to help aspiring authors get their books into the world because books truly change lives. You know, an Instagram post lasts less than 24 hours. Everyone's attention is fleeting, but when you're able to really captivate someone with a book, their whole life can be changed, right? I've had people reach out to me that I didn't even know about tell me that my book changed their entire life, their entire trajectory of their life, and they credit me for that. And I mean, that's just crazy. That's just insane that the book has a power to do something like that. A book isn't, you know, a million different posts on a million different things. It is your core philosophy. It is your core framework. It is your core story. And I don't know if you're a reader, I hope so, because if you're an author, you probably also love to read books, but books change my life as well. And I am so grateful for the authors that came before me that literally helped me develop myself into the type of person who is a best-selling author in order to have this kind of life and to make this kind of impact. So be sure to, you know, follow these tips, start growing your platforms, but most importantly, act like a thought leader before you really think you are, right? Claim the title, claim the authority, and start positioning yourself as a thought leader now, and you will see the rest of the steps follow. I hope this was helpful. Be sure to subscribe if you like this video. Give me a like. If you have a comment, I'd love to know your book idea. Please do share your book idea in the comments below. That'd be so fun to see what everyone's ideas are. And if this resonates with you, just know I love to create content all about entrepreneurship, thought leadership, and the alcohol-free lifestyle. So you found your home here.